Now, learning does not stop. Today I have learned a new word, ornamental birds. I don't know why it took me so long to learn, but regardless, I have learned the word. I am in Tororo again, and we visited a farmer that is specifically dealing in ornamental birds. What are ornamental birds? Among many other things, is something that we are going to discuss in this particular video today. My name is Dennis Duke Wonyala. If you're new here, please ensure that you subscribe. Don't forget to also follow me on X, that is formerly Twitter, at Dennis Duke UG, because I have a lot of updates right there. So let's speak to Mr. Patrick, a retired social worker. How are you, Sebo?
Fine, thank you, Dennis.
I'm glad to be here at your farm. Please say hello to our viewers and your name in full, because the other name was a little bit hard for me.
Hello, viewers and the followers of Dennis. I'm glad to meet you all. I'm called Gwokrik Patrick, an ornamental bird farmer in Kisoko, sub-county, Tororo district.
Thank you so much for having us. What are ornamental birds?
Ornamental birds are beautiful birds that are rare and sometimes as pets. They are very interesting to live with and to stay in that environment in which you are. And in most cases in Uganda, we lack many.
What do you mean we lack many?
We lack because they are rare and they are not in our wilderness.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Is it because we've encroached on the wilderness or something else happened?
Just because of the areas of origin. Most of them don't originate from within. Yeah, you can get some from Asia, some from West Africa, some from Europe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just before we go into the discussion today, Mr. Patrick here was formerly a social worker working with different NGOs, and he decided or chose to go and start raising ornamental birds. Let's start from there. Why ornamental birds among various types of birds in Uganda?
I just have passion for beauty and for pets.
Okay.
So that's how I got interested in ornamental birds. I started with a few, then I've kept on adding the numbers.
Okay.
So currently I have about 10 different types
of ornamental birds.
Ornamental birds.
I mean, yes, you've talked about passion, but does it make business sense for me to go into ornamental birds? Or for you, it's just passion? I mean, somebody would be like, it doesn't make business sense for me, so passion, I'm out.
It started with the passion, but I realized that there was demand, so now it makes business sense.
Okay.
Yeah, and they are relatively expensive because they are rare, so the income is
so
good.
It makes business sense.
It makes business.
So when we talk about ornamental birds, could you kindly maybe try to give us examples? Because trust me, I've learned today a new word, ornamental birds. I don't know how, maybe I've been in a totally different world that I didn't know about ornamental birds. So what are the examples of ornamental birds? I could be having ornamental birds in my home, but I don't know.
Yeah, the ornamental birds that I will give as an example, the ones that I have here. I have a peacock, that is generally called peacock, but they are peafowls. The peacock is the male one, then the female one is the pea hen. We have the silky chicken, originates from Asia,
okay.
And they are mostly white, black, then brown. But the ones I have here, white.
Okay.
The feathers are cotton-like. Then we have the vulturine guineafowl. They're in the family of the guineafowls, but this one, the head is more of a vulture, so it is called vulturine guineafowl. Then we have the dwarfed chicken. Those that are very short, I think they are one of the smallest hens. Then we have those with the curl feathers. Then we have others that you will see as we move around.
Others that you might not even be knowing or remembering the names. How many species are there in terms of ornamental birds? Are they countable or hundreds or numerous? Or any bird that is not among the ones that we've known is still ornamental birds?
They are numerous.
So let's, somebody is interested out there and they want to start raising ornamental birds. what is that one thing that they should start with?
First, as I said, you must be having the passion for it. When you have the passion for it, you will have to read, to research more about it, knowing where they originate from. Knowing where they originate from will help you know the kind of environment they should live in. You should be knowing how they feed. So, because some of them just feed on grass, a number of them feed on seeds, then there are those that feed on insects, then there are those that you can supplement with other feeds like for other poultry, birds. Then if you are another thing that you should also master is how they breed. If you are targeting to multiply them, you should know how they breed and their breeding seasons. Then if you are looking at a business, you should also know your market. Who are the kind of persons who are interested in this kind of birds.
How much money should I look at when I'm starting my ornamental bird farm?
It does not need much, but you can begin with a few.
Okay.
If you have about 500,000, can be 500,000 Ugandan shillings.
That's about 150 US dollars.
That's it. Yeah, can make you get started first for acquiring the bird, their shelter, then feeds. And a good number of them are also disease resistant.
Oh.
Though, as a precaution, it is good also to give them vaccines that other poultry birds get.
So where do I start from? Where do I go to source these birds?
My suppliers are mostly in Kenya, so personally I source them from across.
Don't we have suppliers in Uganda that are doing, for example, breeding? And what I mean is those that are hatching, they have hatcheries of these particular birds, or is it even a big business in Uganda?
Yeah, the business is gaining, but now I'm not sourcing them from Uganda because the ones I know in Uganda are also sourcing from Kenya. So they are relatively expensive. Yeah, so I prefer...
You'd rather go to the main source where
to the main source
because it becomes cheaper.
It becomes cheaper.
Why haven't we had people breeding from Uganda so that we can reduce on the prices of us having to go to Kenya? Because I mean, if it's locally bred here, it becomes a bit cheaper.
Yeah, and that's what personally I'm also looking at. I'm looking at also breeding from within, and I've also acquired also an incubator that most of them will be more of layers. Then we hatch them to help reduce on the cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here at your farm, we see them generally just grazing within the fields. Why so? Why don't you have cages? Don't they need to be in a controlled environment?
Controlled environment would be good, but personally I want them to feel that freedom in that since they are in their wilderness, they wouldn't have been caged. I'm trying to create for them that environment that is more natural than caging.
Just like they were in the bush.
In the bush, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The fact that they are bush animals, let me call them in quotes, haven't you had issues of them trying to run away?
When I acquire them, I first tame them for about 2-3 weeks when they are in the cages. When I get that they are now used to me, I begin releasing them. And by that time, because you are the one feeding them, you are the one interacting with them, no threats, then they don't.
So taming simply means you put them in the cages. Or what other things do you do as you're taming them for about 3 weeks?
Putting them in the cages is one, then interacting with them, going to them frequently, feeding them, and causing no threat so that they feel that relationship. Yeah.
For the time, how long have you been doing this?
I'm now doing this for about 1 year and 4 months.
Okay.
Yes.
And how has been the experience? How have you been managing? What are the challenges you've been facing in regards to your ornament bird farm?
It has not been very challenging. It has been very interesting. But this being a village environment, at one point there were some thieves, but the mitigation measure I took was just to put some CCTV camera for precaution. Then because they are mixed, at the beginning I realized that some were getting infected by other poultry diseases
From one poultry to another.
So now I do mass or general vaccination to control. And another thing maybe would be a challenge, which is the feeding. Most of the feeds are relatively expensive. Most of them feed like other poultry. So the feeds are relatively expensive.
How do you ensure that you grow your farm in terms of adding more, in terms of production? How do you, let's talk about their breeding, the mating and hatching and all that.
I'm looking at creating more partnership and links with other farmers and the resources available. I'll look at expanding the area in which I am in. Currently, I'm operating just in about 1 hectare.
Just about 3 acres.
About 3 acres. So I'm looking at expanding so that we can have many species and in large numbers. Yeah.
Let's talk about the laying of eggs. Do they lay just like the normal chickens we know, or they need specific attention to their laying and all that?
Like the silky chicken, they lay like other chicken, and they are very good in brooding the chicks, just as we shall see later. Then the vulturine and the other genifolds, they need that bush environment. So as we shall also see, there are places in the compound that have created like a bush so that they lay in that environment.
For example, I know turkeys. Turkeys are very good at laying in the bush.
Even the genifolds. And because there are many laying, so they lay, then I get and put in the incubator. So it is the incubator that hatches.
Oh, you don't let them sit on their eggs?
No, I don't.
You just do the incubation.
Yeah.
Okay. And how has been, have you gotten more chicks?
Yeah, I get more chicks. But because of the demand, mostly people buy when they are still
still
chicks.
Young. Because they're even cheaper.
They are even cheaper. Though I would encourage that they buy when they are bigger.
To minimize risk.
To minimize the risks. Yeah.
So let's talk about the business sense of it. How do I make money from ornamental birds?
Yeah, making money from the ornamental birds, first you need to know the type of people who are interested in this. And personally, what I do, I go digital. I advertise them on WhatsApp groups, advertise on Facebook. Occasionally, I go to Twitter now, the X. Yeah. Then, and mostly people are relatively exposed. Yeah. Because they buy more pets for pets.
They want to have some beautiful or beauty within their compounds.
So
yes, I understand that is how you market your products, but how do I make money from ornamental birds? Do I sell the eggs? Do I sell the chicks? Do I sell them themselves? Are they edible anyway?
Yeah, they are edible. And most of the ones I have, like the vulturine, like the silky chicken, they are not fatty birds. And from what I've read, like the silky chicken has a black meat. Black meat is very good in proteins and antioxidant. So it helps also even in boosting immunity.
Okay.
Yeah. So to people who are relatively exposed, and as we continue with the sensitization, we hope more people will acquire them because of their nutritional benefits.
So I want you to tell me how you're making money out of your ornamental birds. Are you selling the birds or the chicks or the eggs or the meat?
I sell the mature birds. I raise them.
Okay.
When they reach some level of maturity, then I sell them. Because when you sell as chicks, you get less money. And raising them from that chick stage to adult does not take long, about only 4 months. So I prefer selling when they are relatively big. Though a few clients will insist and buy the chicks.
Ornamental birds, to my understanding, some of them are restricted animals. By restricted animals, I mean they're supposed to be in the wild. For example, the crested crane. I believe it's also part of the ornamental birds.
Yes.
Haven't you had issues with government or authorities coming over here and trying to say, hey man, you're raising birds that are supposed to be in the wilderness?
Yeah, I consulted with the UWA, Uganda Wildlife Authority, and the birds that we don't have in our wild, they are not restricted. We keep them like ornamental. But like you mentioned, the crested crane, the ostrich, those that we have in our wild, to have them tamed like this, you must have a permit. But those that we don't have in Uganda, they are not restricted. You keep them like another pet ornamental bird. Yeah.
It's
But
only the
ones
restricted in Uganda, the ones that you need to seek permission for.
the ones we have in our wild, like the ostrich, the crested crane.
Yeah, there are a couple of them actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah. So tell us about the civil empowerment program on AIDS. Is it the same?
It is a civil empowerment program on appropriate practices.
Okay.
It is just a community-based organization that I am the proprietor.
Okay.
We are looking at how do we use the local resources, using the human resource available to make our livelihood better. So we basically look at issues that affect us health-wise, the education of the children, then livelihood. And it is under the livelihood that we have thought of introducing the ornamental birds coupled with the poultry.
Have you seen people come through for training? Are you training? Are you doing that?
Yeah, we do a bit of training, though the number has not yet been big. And we use the other hall for our trainings.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your goal? What are you looking at in the next couple of years with your ornamental birds farm?
Yeah, with the farm, I'm looking at bigger coverage of a number of birds, but using them for improved livelihood. Now that I've talked of the community-based organization, we are seeing if many of us in the organization can get involved, then have a wider market. Having wider market will mean that because we are many now producing, the prices will be relatively cheap, so the market will be higher. So I'm looking at improved livelihood from the sale of these birds.
Okay. Any last words to somebody watching us today as we wind up?
Yeah, the last word could be thank you for whatever you are doing in the different endeavors, but having ornamental birds does not require any specialization. It only needs the passion, small space, if you want it as a pet. So let us endeavor as much as possible to bring in these birds in our home environment. They are friendly, they are easy to manage, and they are beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick, for giving us time to speak to us. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for me, from us today. My name is Dennis Duke Onyala. I remind you, follow me on Twitter at Dennis Duke UG. You can follow him as well. What's your handle?
Patrick Gwokrik. Then there is another one, Sepap Ati.
Okay. So if you follow me on Twitter, I'm going to have his picture and I tag him as well so that it's easier for you guys to actually follow him up and get to learn what he's doing here in Tororo. I told you, we are still in Tororo. A special thank you to Martha from Zoe Farms for enabling us actually have this particular interview. Until then, it's a goodbye. See you soon.